It was just past midnight when I felt the warmth of my husband's arm slip away from my waist. He had turned in his sleep again, drifting into the deep, snoring kind of rest that only comes after too much wine and an exhausting day. I stared at the ceiling, wide awake. This house was too quiet lately, too full of words unspoken and tension hidden beneath routine. And tonight, it felt different. The door creaked open. At first, I thought maybe my husband had gotten up. But when I turned my head, he was still beside me, peaceful, unaware. Then I saw him. Jordan, my husband's son from his first marriage, 22. Tall, strong, with skin that caught the low hallway light like polished bronze. He stood in the doorway, shirtless, his sweatpants hanging low on his hips. I should have asked him why he was up. I should have pulled the covers tighter. I should have looked away. But I didn't. He stepped in quietly. Slowly. His eyes weren't confused or sleepy. They were fixed. On me. Couldn't sleep, he whispered. I nodded, unsure why my heart was already pounding. Me neither. He didn't move to leave. Didn't offer a good night or even a smile. He just stood there, watching me like he knew something had already changed. I felt the heat rise beneath my nightgown. Thin. Sheer. It clung to my body more than I realized. My husband didn't stir, but something else did. Between me and Jordan. Something dangerous had just opened. He should have turned around. He should have closed the door and gone back to bed. But he didn't. Instead, Jordan leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed casually over his bare chest, like he had all the time in the world. Can't sleep in that guest room, he murmured, his voice low, husky. Walls too thin. I swallowed. Is that why you're standing there, watching me? He smirked, just a little. I didn't mean to wake you. You didn't. But that was a lie. I had felt something shift in the air before I even opened my eyes. Something that stirred before the door creaked. Something primal. My husband let out a deep snore beside me and rolled over, his back now turned to both of us. I should have been focused on him. Instead, my eyes dropped to Jordan's chest, his muscles outlined by the hallway light, his skin smooth and taut. He was only wearing those loose gray sweatpants. No shirt. No shame. How long are you staying? I asked, hoping to break the heat in the silence. His eyes didn't blink. You want me to leave? That question hit harder than it should have. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Jordan took a step inside. Just one, then another. He was careful, slow, like he was giving me the chance to stop him. But I didn't. You know he doesn't see you anymore, he said, nodding toward his father. I do. That landed like a punch in my stomach, because it was true. My husband hadn't touched me in weeks. He barely noticed when I wore his favorite perfume, barely looked up when I'd changed my hair. I was invisible in my own home, except to Jordan. He walked to the side of the bed now, where I lay frozen. I should have pulled the blanket over myself. I didn't. He leaned in close, so close I could smell his skin. It wasn't cologne. It was heat. Sweat. Something male and dangerous. You're not invisible to me, he whispered. My breath hitched. I felt the back of his fingers graze the edge of my arm. Soft. Testing. Not a full touch. Not yet. I didn't flinch. And in that moment, beneath the quiet hum of a sleeping house, beneath the breath of a husband who had long stopped seeing me, Jordan saw everything. And I let him. His fingers trailed just above my skin, barely there, but enough to make my breath shallow. I could hear my husband breathing, slow and deep, still turned away, unaware, asleep. Jordan's eyes flicked to him for a brief second, then back to me. You want me to stop? He asked, voice low, words like smoke curling in the dark. I should have said yes. Instead, I whispered, you shouldn't be here. His lips curved again, something between a grin and a dare. But I am. Jordan sat on the edge of the bed now, right beside me. The mattress dipped beneath his weight, and I felt the shift pull me ever so slightly closer to him. The air between us was thick, tense. too hot for how quiet the room was. I looked at his back, his shoulders, the line of his spine. So strong, so young. Everything about him was the opposite of the man beside me. His father, my husband, used to look at me the way Jordan was now, with hunger, curiosity, heat. But that man was fading, slowly, like a photograph left too long in the sun. And now Jordan sat in his place. He reached out and gently took a strand of my hair between his fingers. He didn't speak. He just stared at it, then at me, like he was memorizing something. "It's wrong," I breathed. "I know. But you're still here." "I know," he repeated. His hand moved down, slowly, to my thigh, over the blanket, resting softly, not pushing, not rushing. I didn't move. My body tensed beneath the touch, but it didn't retreat. Because part of me, a part one had buried deep in quiet shame and loneliness, wanted this. Wanted to be seen again. Wanted to feel something. I looked over at my husband again, his mouth slightly open, the rhythm of his breath steady and oblivious. He didn't know. Maybe he wouldn't. Maybe this would be one of those moments that existed in a space between morality and silence, a secret that never had to speak. But Jordan was looking at me like I was his. Like he had already made a decision. And worse, like he was waiting for mine. He leaned in, his breath near my ear. "I've seen the way you look at me," he murmured. "You want to pretend you haven't. But I know you have." My pulse was thundering now. He was right. And still I didn't say no. His hand was still on my thigh, warm through the blanket, unmoving but full of pressure. Not from force, but from everything that had been building between us for weeks. 1,000 silent glances. 100 accidental touches. One door left open too long. Now he was here, beside me, and I knew this moment was different. This wasn't a dream. It wasn't just temptation, it was choice. I looked at his hand, then back into his eyes. He was still waiting. My heart beat so loud, I was certain someone would hear it. My husband was just inches away, still asleep, still unaware. I whispered, barely breathing, "If you stay here, we can't undo it." Jordan's voice was steady, almost quiet. "I don't want to undo it." He leaned forward again, slower this time. His lips hovered just inches from mine, not touching, just waiting, giving me one last chance to back away. I didn't. My eyes closed first. And then I felt it, his mouth brushing against mine, soft but full of tension. No rush, no claiming. Just a deep, knowing connection. One that was wrong. One that I let happen. His kiss wasn't like a boy's. It wasn't clumsy. It was controlled, like he'd imagined it 100 times and knew exactly how long to linger. My lips parted. The kiss deepened, slowly, hungrily, carefully. His hand slid higher under the blanket, tracing the edge of my thigh. His touch was gentle, but firm. He knew where he was going, and I didn't stop him. My body was betraying every line I thought I had. He paused just for a moment, searching my eyes again. "Tell me to leave, and I will." But I couldn't say it, because I didn't want him to leave. Because I'd been starving for something, attention, desire, feeling, and Jordan. He gave me all of it in one touch, one kiss, one stolen moment. So instead of telling him no, I reached down and pulled the blanket aside, silently giving him permission. And that was it. The space between guilt and want disappeared. Jordan's mouth moved to my neck, his hands exploring the curves my husband no longer noticed. My fingers tangled in his hair, and for a moment, just a breath in time, I let go of who I was supposed to be. I became the woman I had been once, wanted, claimed, seen. And Jordan made sure I felt every bit of it, right there, in the same bed where his father slept. I woke to the smell of coffee. For a moment, I didn't remember where I was. And then it hit me. The blanket between my legs. The fading warmth on the other side of the bed. The aching places that hadn't been touched in months. My husband was gone, already up. The bathroom door was open. The room empty. And Jordan. Jordan was nowhere in sight. I sat up slowly, letting the morning light spill across my thighs. The sheets felt heavier today, like they carried the weight of everything that had happened just hours ago. I pressed my hand to my lips, remembering the way he kissed me. Not like a boy, not even like a lover, but like someone who had waited, burned for the chance. And I gave it to him. A part of me still pulsed with the memory. The other part felt hollow. I wrapped myself in a robe and stepped out of the bedroom, heart pounding. My bare feet made no sound as I walked down the hall toward the kitchen. Voices. Just one, really. My husband's. Laughing softly as he spoke to someone who didn't speak back. And then I saw Jordan. He was standing by the counter, drinking coffee like nothing had happened. Wearing a black hoodie. Calm. Collected. He didn't flinch when he saw me. But his eyes caught mine and held. 1 second too long. I looked away first. My husband turned, smiling at me, completely unaware. Morning, babe. Jordan's cooking breakfast. Can you believe it? I tried to smile. It barely reached my eyes. Yeah, wow. Jordan cracked an egg one-handed, effortless. Cool. Like he hadn't crossed every line just hours ago. Like his lips hadn't been on my skin while his father slept inches away. Did you sleep okay? My husband asked me. I nodded. Eventually. Jordan didn't say anything, but I felt his presence. Every second. As I poured myself a cup of coffee, my hand brushed his. A jolt. He didn't move. Didn't apologize. Didn't even blink. It was just there. That current. And it was unbearable. We sat around the kitchen island, all three of us. My husband telling stories, laughing at nothing, asking Jordan about work and girls and life. I barely heard a word, because every time I looked up, Jordan's eyes were already on me. Quiet. Unreadable. I couldn't tell if he regretted it, but I did. And yet, part of me wasn't sure I would have changed a thing. Later that evening, the house was quieter than usual. My husband had gone out to meet an old friend for drinks. Said he wouldn't be back until late. I nodded. Said nothing. He kissed me on the cheek, told me to get some rest. And then he left. Just like the night before. I stood in the kitchen alone, staring into the sink, pretending to scrub a dish that didn't need scrubbing. My hands were shaking, just a little. I hated that they were. Behind me, I heard the floor creak. I didn't have to look. I knew it was Jordan. He didn't speak at first. Just leaned against the doorframe again. The same way he had the night it all changed. But tonight, everything was heavier. We should talk, he finally said. I nodded without turning. I know. A long silence stretched between us. The kind that pressed against the ribs. I turned slowly, drying my hands on a towel. Was it a mistake? He didn't answer right away. I've thought about it all day, he admitted. And part of me wishes I could undo it. For your sake. My chest tightened. Only my sake? He looked at me then. Really looked. For mine too, he said. Because now I can't stop thinking about it. About you. I swallowed hard. This can't happen again. I know, he said. But there was a tremble in his voice that didn't match his words. But I also know it will. If we're not careful. And he was right. Because the thing between us wasn't just physical. It wasn't about one night. It was about what had been missing in me for far longer than I'd admitted, even to myself. I'm not proud of what I did, I whispered. But I'm not sorry it was with you. That stunned him. He looked down, then up again, his eyes softer this time. I never wanted to hurt him, Jordan said, voice cracking slightly. He's my father. And he's my husband, I whispered back. But he hasn't seen me, hasn't felt me, in months. Another silence. Then, gently, he stepped forward. He didn't touch me, just stood close enough for me to feel the warmth of him again. I'll go, he said. If that's what you need. I'll pack up tomorrow. My heart twisted. No, I said, almost too quickly. I just need space. And honesty. He nodded. We had one moment. One wrong, perfect moment. But it doesn't have to become something worse. I reached up and did something I hadn't planned. I kissed his forehead. Soft, quiet, final. It wasn't passion. It was understanding. And maybe goodbye. He closed his eyes and leaned into it, just for a second. And then he stepped back. Neither of us spoke again as he turned and walked down the hall. But I watched him go. And my heart didn't feel any lighter. I used to believe that loneliness only came when you were alone. But I've learned it's much louder in a shared bed. It echoes harder when someone says they love you, but never really sees you. My husband sleeps beside me every night. Warm, familiar, faithful in his way. But over time, he stopped asking how I was. He stopped noticing the quiet changes, the way I lingered in mirrors a little longer, searching for something that used to live in my eyes. The way I wore the nightgown he once begged me to keep on, and he didn't even blink. I don't blame him entirely. People settle. They get tired. Life chips away at desire when routine takes over. But no one ever tells you how sharp the silence gets between two people who once shared everything. And then, Jordan stepped into that silence. He wasn't supposed to. He was my husband's son. Too young. Too close. Too wrong. But he looked at me like I was still there, a woman, not a wife or a mother figure or a shadow in the kitchen. And I let myself feel it. Just once. One stolen night, where I was touched, craved, devoured. One moment where I felt like more than just a role I'd been assigned. Do I regret it? Yes. And no. I regret the betrayal. The risk. The weight of a secret I now carry like a second skin. But I don't regret feeling alive again. Not when I felt invisible for so long. The next morning, we said what we needed to say. No promises. No fantasies. Just truth. And sometimes, that's more intimate than any touch. He left a few days later. Said he needed space. I didn't ask where he was going. I just nodded. My husband never noticed the shift in me. Not really. He still kisses me on the forehead when he leaves. Still asks what I want for dinner. But he never asks if I'm happy. And maybe that's the saddest part. That he doesn't want to know the answer. I've learned something about desire. It doesn't always come roaring in like thunder. Sometimes, it slips in during the quiet. When no one's watching. When you've been forgotten long enough that even the wrong kind of attention feels like salvation. But the truth? Desire fades too. What lingers is the ache. The ache of what it gave you and what it took. If you're listening to this, maybe you've been there too. Maybe you felt the pull of something forbidden. And maybe, like me, you stood right at the edge and didn't walk away. I won't tell you what to feel. But I'll say this. We all crave to be seen. To be touched like we matter. And sometimes, when the right person forgets you, the wrong one remembers everything. That night is gone. But it left a scar. And I trace it in my mind whenever the house gets too quiet again. Because even now, when my husband sleeps beside me, warm and unaware, there are nights I still feel Jordan's eyes, like he never really left at all.